Been pretty busy on the mould. We've had a few things made while we've been waiting for the hull to be laid up, which is starting next Saturday. I've been making some modules. So over here we've got a stairway, the companionway that goes down into the starboard hull. Here, come with me, walk with me. 2 engine bays, big sort of 50 or 80 horsepower. Haven't decided what we're going to put in there yet. Here is our port bathroom. So zoom over here and have a look at here, Jan. I'll tip it toward you. Stand back a bit. So we popped this one off the mould about 3 days ago. So here we've got toilet with the floor, shower there. Needs a little bit of polishing, but otherwise pretty perfect. Sink. Obviously.
How'd you get in?
The door is cut out here. So there's a bit of damage here where I reefed it off the mould, so that gets cut out and that'll be the doorway down into the rear cabin. So looking pretty good. You can see obviously the sink here, and that was that big mould I was polishing up. And then this one here is our starboard ensuite at the front, so upside down and back to front. This part here goes into the bow of the boat, so you can imagine the bow of the boat up in here, and the washing machine at the front if Janet decides we need one. I think she probably will, but we're going to live in bikinis and speedos.
Yuck, stop it.
You don't want to see me in a speedo. But yeah, all ready to go. We've got a lot of other bits and pieces I've made, but you know, pretty much big effort here while we've been waiting for the hull. So yeah, it's about half of the internal modules are done. Ready to go, ready to pop in.
Very
Just need
exciting.
to be picking up in places. It is very exciting, honey. Righto, good stuff. That's it. That's it. I'll be edited out. That's it. Put my train away. The repair of the Hull mould took quite some time. It must have been several months by the time I finished it, but you can see me here removing the masking tape around the smooth part of the fore part of the deck. The other issue, as you can see in the foreground there, is that the slot that I'd cut through actually wasn't dead centre because there was a brace underneath. So this was going to be a legacy I'd have to deal with for some time. It is an anti-slip pattern on the underside of the hull, and my options really were to just sort of join it back together and then have an unsightly scar down the centre of the underside of the hull. My decision was to gel up this section, as you can see here, painting the gel coat on with a brush. I would normally spray it, but it would have resulted in overspray all over the rest of the mould. But I carefully masked it up, put gel coat on, and laid about 5 layers of glass into it, and ultimately took a pattern off this particular anti-slip, which was to become useful later on. Now, as you can see here, I'm laminating some chopped matting into the gel coat just as a tie layer. I ended up doing about 4 layers of glass on this and put some wooden stringers in it to give it some strength. I carefully did it to avoid any sort of splashing of resin onto the rest of the mould, which I'd already been sanding it. But it took a bit of time to do this, but the great thing is now I've got a perfect pattern of this product. Now that this is all laminated up, what I've got to do is demould it off the hull, and that's generally a pretty easy process. What you've got to do is just get something like a spatula, like this sort of thing, and then once you break the seal, just drive some cardboard underneath it. That'll ensure you won't scratch the surface. So you can see here, we put our cardboard underneath. Start wiggling the cardboard in there, and what you're ultimately going to have is a replica of the surface that you've polished up underneath. And I'm doing this to create a mould for the anti-slip for my deck profile, for my bridge deck that I'll be doing. So we'll gradually demould this and lift it off and see how it goes. Okay, so I've successfully demoulded it, and you expect to see plenty of blood on a job like this. Rip my arm open on a bit of glass, but that's, you know, part of fibreglass, so I guess you just got to get used to that. One thing to remember, this is going to be as flexible as rubbery, so you just got to be careful when you lift it, you don't break it. So it is a 10-foot panel of glass. So I wonder where I put the string on it. That's pretty spot on, to be honest. That's exactly what I was trying to do, was replicate the Hull pattern, which I've done, and apart from a couple of bits of plasticine, perfect. Got the anti-slip pattern that I took off the mould the other day, so I'm actually back to original plug here, and now I've got to make a mould off that, so I've got to actually make a reverse of it again. So I've gelled this up with polished it, buffed it, gelled it. That's basically gelled, ready to lay up on. And over here we're going to put about 2 or 3 layers of just chop matting, because what I'm going to do is cut some strips off what I pull off here, and then glue them down onto the slot down the centre of the mould. And the beauty of that is that I end up with a nice sort of even finish rather than some jagged line all the way through the middle, because I'm never going to repair that pattern. It's that simple. So I've got the tie layer down on here, which is about 300 grams a square metre. I've just laid it down and I've embedded it in resin. Just going to let it sit for a second, and then I'll get an air roller onto it, like a consolidator, and we'll squeeze all the air out, and that's my tie layer, and then I can slow up a little bit. So first layer's down here. We've got a nice sort of tie layer, 300 GSCSM. Very important to get that one tied on. That ties onto the gel coat. This is the surface just gel coated here. You can see that's been sprayed yesterday. And then this one. Now I'll have its second layer of 450, and probably put another layer of 450 on it. Nice thing about that is you get nice thickness. It's not surf, it's not cosmetic, it's just purely a repair job, so I don't really need to worry about it too much. I've now laminated, there's about 4 layers of chopped glass on this particular pattern that I took off the Hull mould, and now I'm going to crack it off. So the way you do that is take a spatula or a paddle pop stick or something, get it in between, right in between the mould and the pattern, and you know, crack it up gently. And you'll see as you run it around the outside. Be careful, don't cut your fingers here. I've actually only sliced my fingers off here doing this, but you'll see I'm getting in between the mould and the pattern, and this is how all fibreglass things are released. And we run this all the way around. Some places it's going to stick. We don't want it to stick. So the trick is to find a gap between the mould and the product, and we can find that just by having a little bit of a crack. You crack it. Often it's a horrible cracking sound you'll get, and you'll find your way in. But don't ever use anything sharp like a piece of steel or something. You know, you're going to scratch your product. The idea is to get release from your mould. Now this is the first time it's ever been released of here, so I wouldn't be surprised if I don't end up with a great product like this. And you should have almost exact replica of your product, which I have. Where I didn't pay attention was here, around the outside here, where I hadn't actually buffed it. This is the surface I'm interested in, is this one here. So this is the part I need to cut strips to put the joint into the mould. where I'm going to sand, and next step is to sand all of that, and then I'm going to turn these white anti-slips over and glue them down on the mould, leave them overnight. They'll be there forever. What do you reckon, Ellen?
Pretty good.
So Ellen came up with the idea to make this into a bit of a book, so that when we glue the fibreglass panels with the methacrylate gun, we can just flip it over like a book. Great idea. I think we need another piece on that. There's this hole in here as well. This is the slot. Finally finishing that. And then we'll film flipping it over. So with the anti-slip pattern that we'd made earlier on, now firmly in place, glued down with methacrylate at a brilliant epoxy-based adhesive. We then weighted down with brake rotors from the mechanic and left it overnight to cure, which only left the gap in between each of the pattern where we had a smooth surface. So we then masked that, applied some brush gel coat, and then polished it back until it pretty much resembled the surrounding smooth surface. And that was the job done. Essentially, the anti-slip patterning needed to then have a plasticine bead put all the way around that, which would allow the gel coat to flow up over the top when we get to spraying. You'll see me here on my knees. This is a pretty standard pose for me these days. My knees, honestly, I'm in a seriously bad way. My kneecaps have never been so sore. My fingerprints are virtually non-existent. I reckon I could rob a bank, and so much so I can't even turn my phone on. I virtually have no fingerprints left on either hand. I've sort of circulated from left to right hand to try to break down all the RSIs that I've developed. You'll notice me laying here on my hip. I mean, that was a standard pose for about 6 or 7 days. Look, I know I sound like I'm bleeding, but, I think I've got a right to after all this effort. The beauty is that, I've got this mould back to almost a perfect finish, and after 2 buffs of sealer glaze and 3.5 or even 4 coats of TR sealer release wax, this mould is now ready for gel coating, and I'm pretty proud of the result. I've got a good result out of it, and just when you think you've seen enough of me polishing, I just thought I'd throw in a little bit more, because I don't think you have had enough. I don't think anyone watching this could possibly have had enough of me bleating about my polishing. So here's a little bit more for your own information. 3 weeks since I've come back from holidays. This place looks like a brothel. Honestly, it is an absolute cesspool, this place. I've got shit everywhere. But, you know, in those 3 weeks, I've glassed both of the hulls. You can see over there, port hull looking pretty good, even though it looks like the starboard hull, everything's back to front in selfie mode. Down here, all the good scored foams all embedded in, ready for glassing. And yeah, I've had some massive achievements. Doing 7 days a week at the moment to make sure it gets done. Now the temperature's rising here. We're up around the 33 degrees today, and it's only mid-September. So God help me in summer in this tent, it's going to be pretty warm. But if you like these videos, share them out, give us a like, and subscribe down here. Click on the notifications there and you'll find out when I get a new video up. And I'm going to try and put some shorter ones up to make them a little bit more interesting. And I'll see you next time on Life on the Mould.